Alrighty, welcome back. This is the Wreckless podcast, live in front of a bunch of booze, here with the lovely Lance and Erica.
Steve Holt.
I would say that backwards, but now he's the lovely.
Lance is lovely.
It's his hairdo. That's what it is. Dude, all us bald guys stick together, right, Tone?
Yep.
Some just say that the shine is sexy. That's what it is.
Guys like us, we have to stay aerodynamic.
Well, it's really
just so that we look like it. We don't actually go that way, but
exactly.
if I look like I'm moving all the time, it's much better.
It's really we can just see our reflection in your heads. Is why we admire it so much.
That's like hearing your own voice all day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something
I'm starting to learn a lot more about you, Erica, by the minute. So check it out, man. I'm stoked on what you told me. I'm now really eager to try. Before I was just like, shit, more booze, like every other show. But now I'm actually in tune with wanting to see what you got here.
Oh my God, that's my new motto: shit, more booze.
Shit, more booze.
So I want to force you to drink some vodka first.
Sure.
And the whole thing for us about vodka is that flavored vodka, a category that's become bastardized by stupid bubblegum flavors and whipped cream and things like that.
Watermelon.
It's a sort of thing that you can actually use to make eau de vies from materials that you can't make eau de vies from. So this is our green chili. And as people who eat food in California, we know that peppers are amazing. And peppers are amazing beyond just their potential to deliver heat to a dish. There's a lot of beautiful sweetness, vegetal character, chocolatiness that comes from them. But you can't get past the heat and really taste those until you've become very acclimated to the heat from a pepper. Most vodka companies would want you to believe that there's nothing more than heat in a pepper. So when you get one of their vodkas, it's a fraternity hazing tool. It's the sort of shit that you pull out at the end of a long dinner party when your friends won't leave and you start pouring the stuff that's so deadly that they finally have to go.
Yeah, it's the joke booze.
It's
joke
the joke,
booze.
yeah,
it's like you're like, hey man, do you eat these Trinidad scorpions? I'm like, yeah, if you want to shit fire for a month, dude, go for it.
That's exactly it.
But if you actually de-seed them and you actually were to use them in small threads, you get this sweet notes and all these crazy things out of a scorpion that really people are used to just going, that's really, really warm.
Yeah. And so what we did here was we distilled jalapenos. They're all California grown from up near Woodland. And we distill those with lime peels in the still. And we pack a section of the still that the vapor passes through. We pack that with fresh cilantro. So by the time it comes through there, we've got this really beautiful sort of pico de gallo quality to it. After that's done, we infuse it with red and yellow bell peppers, serranos, and habaneros. Just enough habanero and just enough serrano to give it a touch of heat. Not so much that it's bitch slapping you in the mouth.
Right.
And it makes a great mule. It makes a really fantastic Bloody Mary. That's sort of the given easy shot.
Right,
for
peppers
it.
And vodka, tomato juice, game changer, right?
Yeah, but what's great about it is that so often a pepper is just going to provide so much acidity to a Bloody Mary that it just gets really acidic and boring. With this, it elevates the umami qualities of the tomatoes. It makes it more meaty. It makes it more interesting. It gives it more chutzpah.
So I'm going to give you props here. This is, first of all, it's not very hot, right? I mean, this is a very mild vodka. I mean, people think, I want vodka that tastes like water. Well, some of them do, right? I mean, that's their whole selling point. It's like, it doesn't taste like booze, which I like when booze tastes like booze, right? I mean, that's why we drink it, right? If you don't, then stop drinking booze.
Yeah.
Right, so this has a nice quality to it. I'm really getting more of the more of the flavor of what you're talking about. Definitely the habanero is very mild, but I can get it. A lot of the greens and earth tones, and definitely the cilantro, which is weird. Which usually that gets muddled and tastes like kind of like soap if you're not careful.
Yep.
So this really holds up. Are you drinking are you making straight up cocktails with this? I mean, just this on ice and freaking go for it.
Yeah, this on ice is fantastic, but you throw it in with a little bit of agua fresca. Watermelon juice in this.
Hey, you brought up the watermelon. Look, he's getting crafty. He's going to grow a mustache in a minute. That's what's going to happen.
No. How about cucumber juice instead?
Yeah, that's just as crafty.
Okay, well, I'm out of here.
But still, I get what you're saying. That this can hold up to a lot of things, and I mean, just drinkability. It's not very. I mean, what's the proof on this?
It's 80 proof.
Wow. I mean, dude, I wouldn't think that. I would take a shot of this and not even like flinch, like nose burn or anything.
The key to having a spirit that's approachable like that is making sure that the flavor comes first. The flavor's forward.
Yeah. And you know what's cool about that is that vodka, you say distilled or double distilled. I don't know what all that means as far as like flavor, except for getting smoother.
It's bullshit.
But It is, right?
Yeah, it's just marketing speak bullshit.
Yep. Well,
if you can't
good
distill
to
it right
know.
the first time or two, then you probably should be digging ditches or something.
Right. So what does that mean though? People are like it's 7 distilled to la la la. What the hell does that mean then?
It means they fucked up 6 times.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get that tattooed on my neck. Yeah, you just fucked up 6 times. That's fantastic, man. I mean, I do that. People are like, oh, I cooked it for that many hours. You're like, well, why'd you buy a crappy piece of meat? Didn't need it, right? Like you could have just braised it to 165 and sliced it and ate it.
Yeah.
It would have been great.
Yeah.
Given it started good and you cared. So I'm guessing the same thing with booze.
Yeah.
So what do we got next, man? Pat's off to that. And what was the name of that? Just so people know.
So that was our the St. George Green Chili Vodka.
Green chili. It is definitely not spicy. It is the good kind of chili and very, very smooth.
Ask for it by name.
Absolutely.
Let's wrap up with some absinthe.
Oh, rad. All right. Do I get to see the green fairies today or what?
Oh,
Is that what's
yes.
going on? We're jumping around to the Moulin Rouge now. I dig that, dude. You know what's crazy is absinthe. I was a firm hater when this came back. I was like, they were trying to do the sugar cube and the blue flame and all this stuff at a fancy bar. And I was like, hey, man, please, God, don't light anything. I like my mustache and my beard. I don't anything on fire.
They're fantastic, by the way.
Right, yeah, well, I freshly shove. That's how it is, dude. But I was a hater at absinthe, and I think it's now that I've tried some of the newer stuff that comes out, and we're not doing all this like show and dance with absinthe. It's just like, oh, here. Now I've started to appreciate it a little more. So, I mean, tell me your story behind why and if. I mean, why absinthe?
So absinthe was one of those things that, because of the fact that we had a distillery and we were 9 months of the year, we didn't really have a whole lot going on since we were mostly fruit driven.
Right.
We're doing pears, raspberries, and cherries. A little bit of whiskey here and there. And I had some downtime, and I found a recipe in an old Scientific American magazine for absinthe, and I'm like, I'm going to try that. I can't make it over to Europe to buy any.
Right.
The internet wasn't invented yet, so there's no way for me to
Before
order.
the times of the web.
Yeah, you kids don't remember those days, but it was tough. So I started making batches on our lab still, and the first one was totally undrinkable. It was like the nastiest thing I'd ever made, and to this date, it's still the nastiest thing I ever made.
Right.
But I figured out where I went wrong and started changing things up. And over the course of the next 9 years, started making some really, really good absinthe. This starts with a base of Chardonnay brandy. Chardonnay that's been fermented in stainless has really, really beautiful bright citrus notes to it. And those citrus notes come over when you distill it. And that helps provide some nice balance for an absinthe. It also provides good mouthfeel for an absinthe. And when you're dealing with something that's 60% ethanol by volume, you need everything that you can get to counter that astringency of that alcohol. So it's that high proof goes into the still along with star anise and fennel and wormwood. That gets distilled off, and
Right.
then there's a secondary infusion of wormwood, of stinging nettles, of lemon balm, of hyssop, Ricola mint, opal basil, and those things all come together to really round out the flavor palette.
You got to talk to me about this label, man. There's like a dope monkey with drumsticks beating on a skull here on this thing. So, like, what's up with that, dude? That's pretty pimp.
Thank you. It was, as we're coming up with, we had the product, and I love the product, and I had to come up with a label, and I'm like, what the fuck are we going to put on this? Jorg, the founder
Somebody
of this,
beating a monkey.
the founder of the company didn't like the absinthe, so we weren't going to put his face on it.
You should have put his something on it.
Yeah,
Here you go, buddy.
I didn't want to put my face on it. I love driving people to drink, but that's just cruel putting my face on it.
Right.
So I'm just thinking, what do I put on there? And I think I just watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, and so you've got those proto-humans beating on skulls with sticks, and I'm like, that's what I want.
That's the answer, dude. Well, I love it. I love that there's really no rhyme or reason to
There's
it.
not.
Just monkeys I'm glad he's beating a skull instead of beating something else. I'm not gonna lie. That would have been a whole different bottle.
The feds wouldn't allow that.
You can sneak it in later.
Yeah.
Like they do to us. It's
Yeah,
okay.
there you go.
It's all perfect.
So you're drinking it neat, which is
Wow.
a really intense way to do it.
Well, I like to get smacked in the face every once in a while. That's good.
Yeah, we all need it once in a while.
Yeah.
Throwing one big ice cube in there and letting that
Totally.
slowly melt like a whiskey is a great way to do it. Doing that as just grab a pint glass, put 2 ounces of absinthe in it, and then a bunch of crushed ice, and then top it with water. Super simple,
Right.
and delicious and cooling.
I feel like this can make like a killer like popsicle. If I could freeze this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it has vanilla notes. It has well-rounded. I've got all kinds of.
Mix it with root beer first.
Yeah. Well,
Seriously, it's great with root beer.
that's like what's the old the root beer floats, right?
Yeah.
The same principle you could do with this.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome, man. I mean,
Thanks.
And even straight, that has some nice balance compared to, like a lot of things you just get black licorice.
Yeah.
You're like alcohol, black licorice, absinthe. Like,
So
what happened?
So you've got the flavor Bible up on your bookshelf,
absolutely.
which is a fantastic one. So one of the ways that we like to think about taking something like this and making it bigger is thinking about flavor Venn diagrams. And so like think about the key components that are coming through from the wormwood and the anise and the fennel, and then look at things that have a little commonality with that and try and take that little circle and blow it up into something bigger, but still having things cross over into that center circle. So, think about Ricola Mint. It's bringing in some of the green leafy stuff that the wormwood does. Think about something like tarragon, which has a little bit of a hand in the anethol world, but it's also its own beast. Same with the Thai basil that goes in there. So.
Well, it's so unique you think of it like that, because I when I look at plates, I had gastric bypass surgery, I think, 10 or so years ago now. And so I went from eating a lot of quantity to quality. I mean, when you go from like, hey, I can eat anything and then try it, to I get 2 bites. It really changes how you want to like eat food. So in principle, most of my food's a punch in the face is how I explain it. So it's like, hey man, I like if I ate 1 bite, would that satisfy me?
Yeah.
Period. And that's really what I try to shoot for is, everybody's like, well, did you try this with that? You're like, well, I can't. I get 1 spoon. Right?
That's
so
it.
if
Yeah.
you can't do it in 1 shot, stacked foods, flavors, or whatever, which is basically what you're doing with a bottle, right? It's not like you're going, hey, mix all these things. That's a cocktail. You're like, is this good?
Yeah.
Does it have those 5 qualities? Does it hit your front palate, back palate, teeth, umami, whatever you're trying to do in that? Does it happen in 1 sip?
Yeah,
Exactly. And I think all of these did that in its own way, which I give mad props for.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So, and sometimes you're trying not to balance. Sometimes you're trying to balance, right? What do you want to be forward or not? But that's the only absinthe I've tried where I would drink a straight glass of that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thinking about what you were talking about earlier as well with the sugar cube, that what I love about this is there's that sensation of sweetness. There's no sugar in this whatsoever, but it leaves your palate feeling sweet, but not cloying like sugar does. As soon as you put a sugar cube into absinthe, absinthe purists around the world that are listening to your podcast are hating on me right now.
They were probably
this,
already mad at me before, so it's all right.
and absinthe purists have been mad at me from the time that we launched our absinthe, so I don't care. But a sugar cube's a great way to cover up shitty absinthe.
Right.
It's something that people use to cover bad flavors, and for the longest time, I think the whole tradition behind adding that was that the base spirit that went into an absinthe was just so god awfully bad that you had to add sugar to cover that up.
Was their basic moonshine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were making moonshine made with whatever to taste black licorice, and then going, oh God, and sugar and whatever they needed to do at the time to make it right.
Yeah, a lot of it was beet liquor. They'd make alcohol from sugar beets, and it had this really, really earthy character.
That sounds ungodly horrible.
It's not my favorite. Not my favorite at all.
Today we were saying beetroot. No, I don't even like beets in anything unless you candy them or do something else, which is probably where the sugar came in with that. So, right on, man. Well, hey, anything else you have? All these are available in the stores, yeah?
They are.
Cool. And then you also said you have a whiskey?
We've got a couple whiskeys. We've got our regular single malt, which is the one that I started making as soon as we hit the distillery. As soon as I hit the distillery 22 years ago, we've got another one out called Baller, right up your alley.
Yeah, I'm down.
It's more austere in its style, more like a Japanese style of whiskey. 3 years aged, light, with a 6-month finish in umeshu cask, and then we've got a blend that we're about to release in October that's called Breaking and Entering American Whiskey. It's one where we've bought a bunch of whiskey from other distilleries. We're letting people know right up front that we've done that. And we've got bourbon and rye, and we're blending those with some of our own malt whiskey and coming out with that Breaking and Entering American.
I think that's fantastic. This whole concept of people that are taking other booze and like other wines and blending them together and becoming like liquor and wine chefs and like, tasting masters or whatever. I don't know what the technical term would.
Master blenders.
There you go. There you go. A master blender. I have one of those in the kitchen, I think.
I saw it. It's lovely.
Level 3 does really well to keep your hands out. But being a master blender, that quality, I just, that concept to me is so rad. I didn't even know that we were like, the brewery over here, the sour, I met their sour guy that makes everything. The sour Jesus is what everybody calls him. And the dude is amazing at what he. I mean, he started telling me he's got like 600 barrels of all this mash. He's making each one out of. I was shocked. I wouldn't try to taste with him. Like, this is amazing quality you guys have that you have. And so I know that people are looking down on it because it's not like one vintage or one whatever. But to me, it's a whole different skill set in this business that isn't tapped and can't be tapped out.
Yeah,
you can always make something good out of something.
Yeah, and people need to get over the whole idea that it's not vintage and just enjoy what they've got in their glass.
Yeah, they need to shut up and put it in their mouth. Let's be honest. That's really what needs to go on. So I knew we'd get her to do it on Dave. That's it, dude. That's our new intro and outro, Tony.
Theme of the day.
Yeah, buddy.
Put it in your mouth.
Put it in your mouth. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Erica, thank you so much for our new theme song. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Absolutely. And Lance, it was a pleasure, man. You have enlightened me, and I will have these on the back shelf. And while I say make cocktails out of all these, really, guys, learn how to take a sip of something before you screw it up. Right at home, take a drink of it, put an ice cube in it, and put it in your mouth.
There you go.
Wreckless Podcast. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.